It's that time of year again where everyone's going to argue over Halloween. Should we dress our kids up? Should we not? One Christian camp says Halloween's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Dress your kids up as whatever. Take them trick-or-treating. Have your trick-or-treats. Have your Halloween celebrations at church. The other side says no. There's sinister occult practices, darkness happening. We shouldn't be celebrating darkness. We shouldn't be glorifying it. So I want to come in as a voice of reason and talk all about Halloween. I want to talk about what the History Channel has to say, a secular, obviously, company. I want to talk about what Bible Info has to say about it. We're going to talk about trick-or-treating, and then I'm going to give you 5 quick, simple reasons why I do not celebrate Halloween. My kids, my family, we do not celebrate Halloween. So we're going to do all things Halloween in this video, and then you can make your decision at the end. Is this something you or your family should celebrate? This is going to be an interesting one. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to first look at the History Channel's article on Samhain. Some call it Samhain. It's pronounced Samhain because it's not a Christian publication. So I want to show you that even from a non-Christian perspective, Halloween, or what Halloween is. So Samhain, a Gaelic word pronounced Samhain, is a pagan religious festival originating from an ancient Celtic spiritual tradition. So off the bat here, it's spiritual. It is usually celebrated from October 31st to November 1st to welcome in the harvest and usher in the dark half of the year. Celebrants believe that the barriers between the physical world and the spirit world break down during Samhain, allowing more interaction between humans and denizens of the other world, which is aka spirits. So already it's like, this is not a Christian publication here. Ancient Celts marked Samhain as the most significant of the 4 quarterly fire festivals, taking place at the midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. During this time of year, hearth fires in family homes were left to burn out while the harvest was gathered. After the harvest work was complete, celebrants joined the Druid priests to light a community fire using a wheel that would cause friction and spark flames. The wheel was considered a representation of the sun and used along with prayers. Cattle were sacrificed, and participants took a flame from the communal bonfire back to their homes to relight the hearth. Early texts present Samhain as a mandatory celebration lasting 3 days and 3 nights, where the community was required to show themselves to local kings and chieftains. Failure to participate was believed to result in punishment from the gods, usually in illness or death. This is what we celebrate as Halloween. This is where it originated. There was also a military aspect to Samhain in Ireland, with holiday thrones prepared for commanders of soldiers. Anyone who committed a crime or used their weapons during the celebration faced a death sentence. Some documents mention 6 days of drinking alcohol to excess, typically meat or beer, along with gluttonous feasts. Because the Celts believed that the barrier between the world was breachable during Samhain, they prepared offerings that were left outside villages and fields for fairies or sids, which are spirits. It was expected that the ancestors might cross over during the time as well. The Celts would dress as animals and monsters. So here we see dressing up so that fairies were not tempted to kidnap them. Some specific monsters were associated with mythology surrounding Samhain, including a shape-shifting creature called Puka that receives harvest offerings from the field. The Lady Gwyn is a headless woman dressed in 2 white chases, night wanderers, and accompanied by a black pig. The Dullahan sometimes appeared as impish creatures, sometimes headless men on horses who carried their heads. Riding flame-eyed horses, their appearance was a death omen to anyone that encountered them. Again, not Christian here. Okay, this is just secular publication History Channel. You could already see how demonic all of this is. A group of hunters known as Slug or fairy hosts might also haunt Samhain and kidnap people. Similar are the Slaw, who would come from west to enter horses and steal souls. One of the most popular Samhain stories told during the festival was the Second Battle of Mag Tured, which portrays a final conflict. Okay, more demonic stuff. As the Middle Ages progressed, so did the celebrations of the fire festivals. Bonfires as Samhainans, I don't even know how to say half of these, which were more personal Samhain fires near the farms, became a tradition, purportedly to protect families from fairies and witches. Carved turnips called jack-o'-lanterns began to appear, attached by strings to sticks and embedded with coal. Later, Irish tradition switched to pumpkins. In Wales, men tossed burning wood at each other in violent games to set off fireworks. In northern England, men paraded with noisemakers. And then it talks about dumb supper, which children would play games to entertain the dead, while adults would update the dead on the past year's news. That night, doors and windows might be left open for the dead to come in and eat cakes that had been left for them. Christian Samhain. As Christianity gained foothold in pagan communities, church leaders attempted to reframe Samhain as a Christian celebration. So here we see taking a pagan practice and reframing it. The first attempt was by Pope Boniface in the 5th century. He moved the celebration to May 13th and specified it as a day of celebrating saints and martyrs. The fire festivals of October and November, however, did not end with this decree. In the 9th century, Pope Gregory moved the celebration back to the time of the fire festivals, but declared it All Saints' Day on November 1st. All Souls' Day would follow on November 2nd. Okay? This is where it merged with Halloween. Neither new holiday did away with pagan aspects of the celebration. October 31st became known as All Hallows' Eve or Halloween, and contained much of the traditional pagan practices before adopting it in the 19th century America through Irish immigrants bringing their traditions across the ocean. Trick or treat is said to have been derived from ancient Irish and Scottish practices and the nights leading up to Samhain. In Ireland, mumming was the practice of putting on costumes, going door to door, and singing songs of the dead. Cakes were given as payment. Halloween pranks were also tradition in Samhain, though in the ancient celebration, tricks were typically blamed on fairies. I don't know why I'm getting so tongue twisted with all these words. Wicca and Samhain. A broad revival of Samhain resembling its traditional pagan form began in the 1980s with the growing popularity of Wicca. Wicca's celebration of Samhain takes on many forms, from the traditional fire ceremonies to celebrations that embrace many aspects of modern Halloween, as well as activities related to honoring nature or ancestors. Wiccans look at Samhain as the passing of the year and incorporate common Wiccan traditions into the celebration. In the Druid tradition, Samhain celebrates the dead with a festival on October 31st and usually features a bonfire and communion with the dead. American pagans often hold music and dance celebrations called the Witches' Ball in proximity. All right, so here we see complete pagan, completely demonic, all about the dead, spirits, fairies, and somehow, the Catholic Church the Pope tried to merge this in and make it All Saints' Day, which is what we'd call Halloween. So you already see here from a secular publication, absolutely pagan. So let's look at now a Christian publication called the Bible Info, and we'll see what they have to say. Okay, now I want to look at Bible Info, which we've already talked about a lot of this, but it's what does Halloween mean? The word Halloween literally means the evening before All Hallows Day, celebrated on November 1st. Halloween is also the short name of All Halloween, All Hallows Evening, and All Saints Eve, which was celebrated on October 31st. The origin and meaning of Halloween derived from the ancient Celtic harvest festivals, but more recently we think of Halloween as a night filled with candy, trick-or-treating, pumpkins, ghosts, and death. So we already went through history. I won't go through all of that. It's very similar to what we already went through. Should Christians celebrate Halloween? As a logical thinking person, consider for a moment that what you're celebrating and what Halloween is all about. Is it the holiday uplifting? Is Halloween pure? Is it lovely, praiseworthy, of good report? Philippians 4:8 says, "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, what are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue, and if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things." Is Halloween based on godly themes such as peace, freedom, salvation, or does it bring to mind fear, oppression, and bondage? So it's a good question to ask. During the celebration this day, are we thinking of things that are good and pure and holy and righteous? And the answer is no. Additionally, does the Bible sanction witchcraft, witches, and sorcery? On the contrary, the Bible makes it clear that these practices are an abomination to the Lord. The Bible says in Leviticus 20:27 that anyone who practices witchcraft, soothsaying, sorcery should be killed. And then Deuteronomy 18:9 adds, "When you come to the land which the Lord your God has given you, you shall not learn to follow the abominations of those nations. There shall be no one found among you who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For all of these things are an abomination to the Lord." So is it wrong to celebrate Halloween? Let's look at what the Bible adds to this topic in Ephesians 5:11. "Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them." So this text is calling us not only to have no association, but also to shed light on these topics around us. As stated earlier, Halloween was not exposed by the church for what it was. Rather, it was incorporated into church holy days. And are Christians responding in the same way today? As you think about Halloween, its origins and what it stands for, would it be best to spend time dwelling upon its themes or shed light upon what lies below the surface of this holiday celebration? God is calling humanity to follow him and to come out from among them and separate, says the Lord. "Do not touch what is unclean, and I will receive you." That's 2 Corinthians 6:17. So it's clear this is an unholy holiday. It's an ungodly holiday. Now, Wikipedia has the similar origins of what I discussed. And look at what it says on Wikipedia. Bonfires, guising, mumming, divination, saying, veneration of the dead, feasting. It has the date, all the stuff. Okay, so it talks about Samhain, all the background. Now, some people would say this is all made up. What's the source that's connected to Halloween? Look at all the sources here. So for those of you that are like, give me some sources. These are all references and sources of how this is pagan. Look at here, the pagan religions of the ancient British Isles, their nature and legacy. Oxford, page 327. I mean, all of these are sources to how this is tied in and where the history comes from. Okay, so literally 125 sources of the history of Halloween. And then secondary sources are linked here as well. So I think it's a total cop-out for people to say there's no sources, that's not accurate, Halloween is totally fine. Trick-or-treating, well, can I just take my kids trick-or-treating, Isaiah, on Halloween? During some Celtic celebrations of Samhain, this is another article here, villagers disguised themselves in costumes made of animal skins to drive away phantom visitors. Banquet tables were prepared and left out for unwelcome spirits. In later centuries, people began dressing as ghosts, demons, and other malevolent creatures, performing antics in exchange for food and drink. The custom was known as mumming, dating back to the Middle Age, which is what we do modern day trick-or-treating. By the 9th century, Christians had spread into Celtic lands where it gradually blended with supplanted older pagan rites. In 1000 AD, the church designated November 2nd as All Souls Day. Poor people would visit the houses of wealthier families and receive pastries called soul cakes in exchange for a promise to pray for the souls of the homeowner's dead relatives, known as souling. The practice was later taken up by children who would go door to door asking for gifts such as food, money, and ale. Again, absolutely pagan. Absolutely pagan. Kids dressing up, going around, asking rich people for gifts, saying they'll pray for their dead relatives. So you might say, well, can't we just redeem Halloween? But the word redeem means to buy something back, and God does not want this holiday. God does not want to buy back this pagan holiday. Some of you might say, well, isn't Christmas pagan? I'm not going to go into that in this video, but the bottom line is this. Christmas does not promote gore, death, darkness, and evil spirits. Halloween does. So that's the argument. It promotes things contrary to our faith. Again, Ephesians 5 says, have no fellowship, but instead expose them. It glorifies Satan. I posted an article, 5 reasons Christians should not celebrate Halloween. I'm going to share with you those reasons I gave. Very quick, very concise. Number 1, it has pagan origins. We've talked about this in the video. Even the History Channel would admit that. Halloween has historical ties to pagan festivals. Number 2, occult and witchcraft. The connection between witchcraft and the occult and Halloween is undeniable. This is not something Christians should be celebrating. God detests witchcraft according to the Bible. Number 3, fear and darkness. God has not given us a spirit of fear, and one of the main themes of Halloween is fear. We are called to be the light of the world, and why would we celebrate a holiday that promotes darkness? Number 4, morality. Most costumes promote violence, gore, or sexual themes that directly go against Christian morals. Number 5, alternative beliefs. Participating in Halloween condones beliefs and practices that don't align with our faith. Most of the practices involved with Halloween celebrate New Age and false religions. So my final thoughts is this, but Isaiah, what if my kids miss out? And my response is, don't you want them to miss out on fear, gore, death, lust, and everything else Halloween promotes? Halloween promotes things that are ungodly and unrighteous, things that we as Christians should not be celebrating. I don't see the reason why any Christian should celebrate Halloween. This is my opinion. I believe it's something we shouldn't celebrate, from pagan, occultic origins to the 5 reasons I gave you. Let me know if you're going to be celebrating it down below. If you are celebrating Halloween, let me know why down below. I don't see a justification, but I would like to know, and I'm interested to know your justification on Halloween. We're live every Monday, Tuesday, and sometimes Friday. Pray about becoming a monthly partner with our ministry. You can do that down below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. God bless.